cosmic cheaters. Okay, I don't want to get that caught on tape, but I think you and Mesh are the same. Oh, we're now live. Okay, all right, all right. So this is a God. You know that every time you tear up, I tear up like 5 seconds before you do, and I don't know why. I'm like, why am I having this stinging in my ears? Okay. Yeah, this is gold. We're on the right track.
I've got the giggles now.
I know. I know. There's God. Okay, let's see where it goes. Do you want me to tag you on it? Let me see. Let me
Yeah,
tag you.
I'm just sharing it
Okay, I'll
around,
go ahead and tag you
sharing the
just so
love.
people can find you if they want to. Oh, and there's somebody. There's somebody really connected to us. You. Um, and I didn't know it. And the initials are CW.
Yeah, yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I know who you're talking about.
I know. And she's sending me these texts, and I don't talk to anybody this summer, but a couple of people, two or three people. And so she says to me, um, yeah, I saw you and Alicia, and I want you to know this is what, this is the connection we've had. I'm like, are you kidding me? But my soul's like, well, what do you think? October the 11th in the Northern Hemisphere, it's 5:11 in Nayarit, Mexico, which means it's what, 6, 7, 8, 11 in New York. Um, yeah, we were late because we've been comparing notes and trying to trying to figure out what we're going to share. And I just woke up from a nap an hour ago. I just woke up and
Well, I'm
I had
not
said,
surprised because as I was waking up a few hours ago, you popped into my field and were having pre discussion.
hey, one thing about the things that are happening now for me personally, and I know I'm not the only one, is the reality is setting in. It's not about Trump. It's not about wars. It's not about these things that in the circles that we've been in that people are being charged by and polarized by and choosing sides. You know, had a massive night last night and watched the sun come up. I didn't go to sleep, which has been like this has been going for like 6 days. Um, we've arrived, and I'm a bit tentative to talk about the things that have occurred with me personally that we talked about before we went live. But I know that we're on the right track. I know we're here. We've arrived. We're not on the right track. We're not. It's no longer a carrot on the stick. The aspects that have been showing themselves to us since 2012, and for some more and for some less, but these are us. We're the boots on the ground. We're doing the work. We've done the work. We've accomplished what we meant to accomplish. And now it's, I don't know, it's not the after party because the after party will come after the golden years. But I mean, we're here. We are. And I'm ready to die for that. And from a human standpoint, I'm not afraid. And not that I really was like, but we're here. We've arrived. So
Yeah,
thank you for letting
thank
me
you.
intro you like that. Thank you for
What a
coming in,
wonderful
Alisha
intro.
Braché. I, it makes no sense. And I've said it for years. If it makes no sense and you feel it, do it. That's the only thing and that's what brought us all together. But yeah, to be in a space in this transition or handoff or, um, yeah, of the, as we said in the, when we talked about it last time, the secret space program, parallel universes, and the fucking I am soul, all in one. I've not seen that out there, and I'm privileged and honored to be here with you, my beloved sister, to discuss
Thank
it.
you. Thank you, Todd. Well, there's been a lot of intel and updates and insights and holy shit moments since we last got
Oh,
together.
really?
Yeah,
How long has it
yeah.
been? A
It's
week?
only been a
Two?
week. Yeah, it feels a lot longer than that. And I agree with you because when we go on to this topic, I feel like this is the topic that unravels as we enter into the landing of we've arrived, and part of what you've described as this reality shift. And I know wholeheartedly in every ounce of every cell in my body that we are on that pathway now, and nothing gives me greater excitement and delight and motivation and childlike just joy and humor and just wanting to be fun and silly about it, because I can see it reflected everywhere. Like it's in me, it's the knowing I have. But this last week, I've literally seen it show up in mirroring in my reality in so many other people's experiences. It's just like everywhere I look now, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, here we are.
So this all happened in the last week?
Of course it did.
Because in the last week, I got to tell you, I haven't had the exact routine every day, but I have woken up. I've gone to sleep, woken up at either 2:22, 3:33, 4:44, or 5:55. And the pattern has been go to sleep, wake up after a short period of time, stay up and stare at the ceiling like, what is all this geometry? What are these colors? I walked outside last night at like 5 in the morning. It was still dark, and I saw this almost like a wall of light rays, and I thought, what is that? But so the process has been go to sleep, wake up at a triple number, stay up for a few hours, maybe go back to sleep, sleep an hour or two, get up and start working, and then somewhere between 10:30 and 11:30, I got to lay down and go to bed again. Lots of lucid dreams, and the 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 biggest impression from the dreams has been that in the dreams, I'm I'm the character at times, and I'm the observer at times, and I'm like a spirit guide helping these people, illuminating these people who are going through what I and you and we've gone through before, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to backtrack because you've just reminded me the lucid dreams that I've been having have been around this topic of freeing people, what I would call sort of military ops type of parallel dream type scenarios. And there's been this consistent theme of thread that's been running through, which was more towards the beginning of the week, but it was freeing people and getting them to reconnect. Oh my God, yeah, okay. So I'm trying to remember, I put a video out and talked about it, but there was one where there was this operation of women specifically that were helping. They were going into this kind of government facility, kind of looked like a American prison that you'd see in movies. And there was a group of like 40 men, and they were trying to they were working there, but they were undercover to get them, released and freed. And I think it's quite symbolic when we're talking about people having experiences in parallels in some of these programs, because my belief system is once we can call back all our consciousness from different fractals of different realities, that's when we embody our full presence, and that's when we shift. like, and I can see that happening, and it was successful. And at the end of the dream, it was like there was this theme about this reemergence of the shift of the identity of the masculine component, which I feel I'm very connected to. And I'll talk about my body stuff because at the moment I literally feel like half my body is in two different realities, but that's a whole other conversation. So I marked it in my calendar because sometimes I'll get dates and it will say in 2 weeks' time. So in the dream it was like in 2 weeks' time I'll have a new identity was the when I woke up. So I marked it down in my calendar, which I know between the 17th and the 20th of this month is going to be some explosive igniting more on the masculine energy side of like coming into alignment. Let's just say that. And this correlates with, so I've been looking back to a lot of intel that I got 2 years ago, just before I went into that new earth reality experience that I touched on. And I can see that what I was getting then, I was kind of like 2 years off. I was, as I do. And I've been laughing about it. And I had this very profound dream in September of 2023. And I literally, as I woke up, I heard that the collective are going to go through a mass awakening in 7 weeks. It was very specific. You have to write a program to teach people how they're going to navigate through this time period. Get started now. And it was just like, and I woke up and I looked forward, and it was the 17th of October, which 7 weeks landed on. And so I'm looking back at this date, and there's all this data around sort of this aligning of the new version of self, but it incorporates with more of our consciousness coming back, whether it's in a parallel or on a ship, like where we've been doing this process, we've been in this process of collecting fragments of our consciousness, I believe, for many years. But boy, oh boy, is it just ramping up because of where we're entering into. So, all right, that's
Okay,
enough for
so
now.
I'm gonna hand it back to you real quick, but there's two things that stand out. One is, there's been a lot of talk about the masculine and the feminine, and particularly the masculine, the last 2 or 3 years. And, I've been involved in a mutual connection, as many people know, that she carried, like you, a lot of this feminine code. And from a galactic standpoint or higher chakra or intuition, and then for the masculine, very organic, uh, don't speak the same language, but kind of know what to do if you can get out of the way and do it. And sometimes you just do it, which is kind of like me, right? But in the last week, in the last 3 weeks, that force has come through, balanced, harmonious, devoted, redeemed, and as a standalone, but as as the consort. And so that's the first part. And the second part, that was so intense for me just to say that. I forgot the second part of what you were saying that stood out. I feel like it has to do with the dates and the timing. I know what it is now. And it's not masculine, it's not feminine, it's soul. And so what I kind of received over the last month is that I've always felt like that the galactic, because we're multidimensional. So there's many aspects, beyond angelic and elemental and so on. But that the galactic, for some reason, was like the closest thing to us, almost like the facilitator, right?
Yeah.
Almost like Inception, the movie, where we're in the galactic, and just to use a metaphor, we lay in a pod, and we send part of our soul a big part of our soul to the earth. While we still
Mm-hmm.
have this multidimensional understanding and capability and remembrance and so on, but not on the earth. And so what I've gotten in the last 3 weeks, and then especially the last week, has been that, I've always seen it as, or I've heard people talk about it on the shows where they'll say, we're going to soul retrieve and pull my aspects back in. But this is more like from the standpoint of I'm on the ship, we're going in now, and we're going to finish this job. And and so you can say that the soul's in the driver's seat. You can say that the multidimensional's in the driver's seat, but to me it feels very galactic. And I feel like that, this is where this particular series that we've started is meeting, where the boots on the ground that have held the esoteric knowledge or that have been in a breakaway civilization or a secret space program or whatever the case is, that haven't shared anything, the 53 miles of shelving underneath the Vatican or so many other things, the Smithsonian or the governments or whatever you want to call it, that the truth is coming out. It can't be stopped, like you said. And the individuals are coming in and embodying within the avatar that they chose to transfer part of their soul to, and now we're pulling it all in to this
Mm-hmm.
avatar to 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 bring it to a head. And I feel like that's where we're at. I hope that made sense. Thank you.
Perfect sense. Thank you, Todd. Um, there's a lot of correlation. There's so many things going through my mind right now. You're right about it's the merging, and I feel like this masculine energy that is coming in is the crucial piece. So when I talk about the masculine energy, I have a wider association with it because I feel like the masculine energy is also a reflection of what we see in the physical reality shift and change. So it's like when that piece comes back into land or home, and then there's the unification that occurs within us, that's the flash essentially. Like that's the activations that go off in the individual and then in partnership and then in it just has this flow on ripple effect. I'll share what came to me just in the last 24 hours. So since January, I've been talking about the COVID timeline closing out, this kind of 5-year window period closing out. And we've seen, well, I believe we've seen so many different threads of that. So what things have happened in the last 5 years kind of coming back around full circle or clearing essentially. But yesterday I had a conversation, a really powerful conversation, and it kind of hit me as to, I didn't even know what I was talking about when I kept saying that the COVID timeline's ending. It hit me in a different way. And I think this is where it connects from my understanding of SSP related. So when you go back to around the early part of 2020, I know from my experience, March 2020 was really impactful in probably not the kindest of ways, quite brutal. And that was when I started to have a lot more tangible recall of having these intensive missions, whether it be in underground facilities, rescuing children. That's when all that stuff came into much more focus of my, I think it was happening but way before that, but it's almost like more of my consciousness was called because I believe we were on a higher timeline trajectory. And then what I talk about the COVID time, it was like we had this dense, distorted overlay that kind of ripped everything apart. And this was a lot in counterpart connections. I literally watched everyone who was paired just kind of like And it was in many different, it wasn't just that, but it was many different things. And I realize now that I believe that a lot of us who are connected to some of these programs in parallel realities or however that looks, we are what I call the boots on the ground multi-dimensional cleanup crew. So it's not just what we do here in our human form, it's what other aspects of us are doing. And I know that so many people reported to me that in March of 2020, all of a sudden they were like, what is happening to my life? I go through these periods of 6 months, 6 weeks at a time where I feel disconnected, depressed, but in my dream space, I'm fighting, I'm battling, I'm off, I'm having all these crazy, am I crazy, And it felt like whatever it was like we were working overtime. And I talk about, going to bed and going to night shift, because that's where a lot of the action takes place. So when it hit me yesterday through this conversation, I was like, oh, the COVID timeline is the wrap up of these programs and projects that kind of were super active for the last 5 years, but it's like everything's being corrected. Everything's coming to a closure. And so the fractals of our consciousness are coming back, which is putting us back into this lead up to this whole new reality shift. And I just, like, it hit me in a way that I haven't been able to fully, it landed, and I just sat there like, holy shit, and I'm watching it in real time of people going through these huge life changes because they've been in this battle mode, in this survival mode, and that is coming to a close, and that is happening in real time. Whereas in Alicia's consciousness world, she thought it was happening in real time like 2 years ago, but I can actually see it happening in multiple people. And what that looks like is people are just dedicating to themselves. They feel lighter. They can see this, we're on the upward swing. Now I want to do all these amazing creating things where I just couldn't get it off the ground. Like all these things, horrible things where things were ripped away from me. Now it's just organically returning back. There's abundance, there's creativity, there's love, there's connect. All the things that have just, like in the last 5 years, where we've been literally in this fetal position of like, I don't think I can take anymore. We're literally in this reversal phase, and I think the removal of that timeline and everything that it represented, but especially the work that we've been doing for those of us that can relate to having these greater missions or whatever's been happening. And I get really emotional about that, because from what I've seen and the intel that I've got for years is when that wraps up, when these programs close, we get full access to our consciousness. That's the ascension in a human soul body merged form. When the returned soldiers come back from war, we get to party and celebrate. And I get so emotional because it's happening. It is happening. And so I feel like this month there's a lot of that cleanup is happening. But oh my God, November. November's gonna just, and I think that we're just the on-flow effect. And I feel like some of the front runners are literally going through this now, in kind of guiding the energies. And I think we're going to see the ripple and the on-flow effect quite pronounced between now and March. So everyone's at their own pace, but I think those that are going through it now, like the intensity and like we're kind of just setting the tone, and then we just open the gate on the bridge, and we just allow all our brothers and sisters to join, essentially.
Yeah, you mentioned the bridge. Yeah, and thank you for all that. Yeah, so like this week, the bridge came in. I'm not saying, in my experience, in those that I was interacting with, the bridge came in. I saw some reference to it that the bridge had been built, and I'm like, yeah, the bridge has been built, between 3D and 5D. But
Sorry, Todd. Every
uh,
time someone speaks truth, my body jolts in reaction.
and so I'm like, okay, yeah, we built the bridge. Now, what's a bridge for? And so I'm, I would say in the last this today, jumping on to the other side, understanding as my soul's come in and said, because I've heard people say over the years, well, you're not leaving 3D. You're merging both, which makes sense because we're always integrating, bringing things, polarities to the 0 point. But there's a difference. And I think that's where the secret space program kind of thing comes in, and possibly parallel universes and so on. Um, because there's a part of it that's within the construct of the illusion. Because originally, because I remember Lemuria, I remember the day we were invaded. I remember the vibe. It was a matriarchal, like the indigenous. It was sweet. It was the essence of the whole reason that we created this physical reality, so we could have these physical sensory experiences, be it eating, making love, drinking coconut water, whatever, swimming in an ocean, petting an animal, whatever the case is. So I understood in the last few days that um, we are merging the two. We're bringing the 3D experience with us, but we're not bringing the distortion and the illusion part of it, which to me is the infrastructure, or the machinations, or uh, the impressions that, that which thinks they're the lesser God aspect of the experience, the secret space, the control, the what we might call the patriarch in this leg of it. It's not coming with us. We're taking the actual experience with us to the other side of the bridge, and that experience is the high points, regardless of what the experience felt like, the pain and the suffering, but the true love, um, looking in a baby's eyes, these moments of bliss and joy, they've been real. They've just been shrouded and clouded by all the dualistic impact on the polarity, right? Because the polarity's still there. It is. Otherwise, we're all back at source. So this is a basic function and dimension, you know. So I really got that, and I received that today. I woke up today, and it was like bing, 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 and I'm like, oh my God, okay, there's no going back now. There's literally no going back. It reminded me a lot of 2012, although there was a lot more distortion, distraction back in 2012. For me, it started in May of 2011, and it was taking me back 14 years ago. It was taking me back 10 years ago. It was taking me back 9 years ago, and showing me all these things that were happening. And one of those things that came to me was the last time we talked, and you said November. And like the smile like you have right now, like the smile you had on your face as you were telling the story, like wait till November. And I'm like, I saw it all. And I'm like, okay, you know, like this is it. This is where the physical leap takes place. And there's no more have to, need to. Um, we just do it, and it serves you. And I felt these rhythms all summer through a lot of things that a lot of people could relate to, which was what you were referring to earlier, which were these disconnections and these, being tore down, and all this stuff going on. I still had these things that were occurring to me through the universal energy, which I would just call nature, right? That were just coming to me. And it wasn't all day long every day, but it was enough to where I'm like, something's going on. I think the other thing is, for the first time ever, and I've done all these shows over the years and talked to all these different people, and we can all go back and reflect on that and what we've seen in these Lightworker and Starseed and Disclosure and conspiracy circles and groups and posts, that there would be two Earths: Dolores Cannon, Edgar Casey. I never could relate to that. I never could. Well, that doesn't feel right. But now I can see it. I can see that the element of that is that say the secret space program is part of that whole infrastructure is just another available soul experience at a very dualistic and polarized level that souls will choose to go through the same pain and suffering and confusion and so on and so on and so on. That's still available. That's always going to be available. And it was created from the earth, this last leg of the earth experience. But there's another side that I've seen in the last 24 hours. That is that closest parallel timeline that takes the wisdom and the code of the 3D experience without the shadow, without with the wisdom of the shadow, with the the wisdom of all that shadow work and all that stuff, etc. But we're taking the organic 3D with us, the sensory experience, the kissing your partner, or eating a nice taco, or drinking a coconut water, or putting your feet in the sand. I mean, these are not things that the soul had experienced, and this is the beautiful part of it. So I can see the split now, and there is no one is better than the other. This is a soul's choice. It's free will extrapolated in a higher way. And part of the evolution of the expansion of the consciousness is to understand that both are okay. Both are more than okay, and they're equal. They're just they're just contrasted, which is even better because it gives us more to, paint our future with, or, paint our experience with, because we have more color, we have more to choose from. So, you know, going back to the secret space program and to these parallel universes and the connectivity there and the hybridization and all these different elements that are just leaking out, leaking out. For me, I always went back to I am soul. Whatever you put before me, I am soul. I don't understand it, but that's the last thing I'm going to stand on. And if you take my container out of the picture and I transition physically, say in this regard, I'm coming right back. And I'm gonna kick your ass, or you're gonna kick mine. And this is what's stopping now for me. It's a not a shell game, and it's not charades. It's it's the energy that has been here, and I'll say for the last 12 to 15,000 years, has been that archonic energy. It's this energy that cannot create; it can present and distort, and threaten, and suggest fear, to include fear of death, security, survival, and all that stuff. This is what we're liberating ourselves from, and as we do it, we're creating these two timelines. And a big part of it is, if you want to, and it's not to compare anything, but if you want to go to this closest parallel existence of this organic and true, pure, beautiful earth, to me, a prerequisite is to be able to look at the other one, the one that we came out of, and the one that some souls will choose, and look at it with the same reverence, grace, mercy, love, and peace. And I guess the short way to say that is, truly we're now being offered the opportunity to walk the talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. So beautifully spoken, and I hope that everyone received the energy and the code that was coming, because that was so much more than words. I was literally seeing the visions and the imagery of what is being created, what we're stepping into, what those who choose to step into will start to connect and co-create. And it brings up it, and you also mentioned this archonic force, and I feel like that's what we're being stripped, what is being stripped out of us, even on a deep cellular level. Even as you were talking about it, it feels like those that are making the choice, it's like almost like ripping like a wax strip. It's sort of like it's a frequency that's being ripped from us. That may feel painful at times, but it's necessary. And it, God, I'm losing my words because there's so many things that just want to jump in.
Think in
I go
Australia,
back.
isn't it? Somebody once told me, an Australian once told me, I think, isn't that what they call a back crack and sack?
Essentially. But God, that is what I think September was about. That's what the whole message of we're getting prepared, we're getting prepared. And it was interesting because this morning as I was waking up, I often have a dialogue that comes in and will talk to me like when I got that November thing. And it's funnily, I always associate it, I call it my dream voice. It's an aspect of me, but it sounds like a narrator, and I know most people aren't going to pick that up with my Australian accent. That's narrating like my life. It's giving me an overall kind of perspective. And I had it come in this morning, and I literally it showed me some people that I know who are connected on a soul level, and then it was kind of casting through, and it said, from now till through November, it is the most supportive energies to get into alignment, to be aligned fully with soul, and to be in your truth and authentic expression. Like that's the energies that is like ripening us, that we have this. And then I flashed through to like December, and it said, for those that haven't, who need to. I know that. So this is the voice. It wasn't me, so I'm just the messenger. Said,
It is you.
yeah, well, it is me. It's not my human. Said those that need to come along that may be resistant to it, like there's going to be a cosmic realignment occurring in December for some of those people, because I do believe that there are perhaps people who are critical for this, who on a soul level have, taken on maybe more than their human could process, and maybe stuck in some dense places. So it's kind of like these energies are actually supporting and aligning. And I know a lot of people are going through this like test and initiation of like really being in their truth and authenticity. So it's like that's part of like the eye of the needle squeeze. So I honor those people. I honor those people. It's not for everyone, but it is for some. And I just want to encourage those people, because it's like you're going to look back and just be so grateful of whatever you move through, because it's going to be epic once you reach that other side, or that point of where we're heading.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many different ways to like you said, like when you were talking about me a while ago, and I've experienced this a lot, where I'm having a show with somebody and I can't, it's almost like I can't even hear the words they're saying at the human level. It's the energy, it's the truth frequency,
Yeah.
and you start to get chilled and this and that. So there's a guy out of a brother out of Melbourne that I've been doing shows with, or actually did two shows with him, and then I've been producing a show with him and a sister. I just start the shows out and then they take it over. So he had an experience very much like, I think I might have mentioned this to you. His name is Gareth Jenkins, and his friend, his the sister is Katie Kiss, but Gareth in particular has a story that's very much like kind of like the law of one, the Seth material, where there's a channel and there's more than one person involved and so on. And it's very, very, very intriguing story. But the bottom line is the information. And I look at every explanation as a narrative, no matter what it is, whether it's Orion Wars or it's, what's currently going on the face of the earth, apparently, or whatever the case is. And so I really speak to it from, or look at it from a metaphoric level. And so his his information that he received from Tom, who is by his definition God, okay, and this isn't just him, it's two, maybe three other people that are in these sessions, was that somewhere around 4 billion years ago, uh, a group started to go planet by planet, solar system, galaxy, and turn everything into an inversion. Here on Earth, they might call it evil or dark or satanic or whatever the case is, but to basically control. And that the Earth was specifically created to counter this measure. And that the human being was specifically the child of the Earth to to um, to lead this initiative, and that is why we're universally seated like no other before. And now we've reached this point with the assistance of, like the Arcturians, the Andromedans, the Syrians, etc., Pleiadians. And I want to add, too, that in the past week, where this has all happened to you and me, and I'm sure many others, the Pleiades lined up with the sun, and Arcturus is now lined up, so there's no mistakes. But one of the things that my first point would be is that we're at that point now. We're at a tipping point that is, I think you said it in your own way a minute ago, but that is a universal correction. It's a
Yes. Well,
universal realignment and correction. It's not just us. And no matter how mundane and, you know, hard our experience had been in the dark places you talked about with many people, um, it's been it's just been something that's never been achieved before. But there's been a lot of help. There's been a whole bunch of and they're coming into the fold more and more. That's another thing I get that you said earlier. Every time I open my eyes, I see hundreds of bodies around me. You know what I mean? Either third eye or otherwise. And so it's all coming home now, and we're the core of it. So I just wanted to kind of draw that story in to give another, not perspective, but just another explanation of what's actually occurring. Now, the last thing that I wanted to bring up about what he's brought to the table, he's very connected to the Arcturians, which now that I look at, the work that I've done over the years, when somebody's like, I'm very connected to Arcturians, we're like, well, it's because you are an Arcturian. You're a fucking Arcturian. But the Arcturians told him, and we've heard this before, but it carried a whole different feeling for me, that by the end of the year, we won't recognize ourselves anymore. And so this is going along the lines with what you're bringing to the table. What I can kind of go, oh yeah, I'm getting that too. But I really feel like this 10, 11, and 12 is really like a 1, 2, and a 3. So 1 is, like you said, I think earlier, not to differentiate or like put forth any kind of hierarchical thing, but just everyone has a different role. So the ones are kind of what we've come into in the last week, the things that are going to kind of come to fruition in 30 days, around the 1st of November through maybe the 11th or the 12th. Or something's going on there. It's like we're hatching out of the egg. And then in December, those that are right next to us, but maybe from a human level haven't stepped through, need to see the gate open or the door open so that they can go through. It will happen. And then I can't even imagine what, like January 1st, which is a 1 year,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's a kickoff. So I felt like that information to bring forth that information. And I just want to give a shout out to Gareth Jenkins, and appreciation as well for coming out, because like many people, he's been told for a couple of years, because this story of his goes back probably 20 years. And, you got to get out there. You got to get out there. You got to get out there. And now he is. And I believe many, many, many other people are. And I'm basing part of that too on the shows I've done over the last few weeks, because there's a different element to it. It's no more about, hey, this is my story and it's so unique. And I'm not saying, you know, it's without ego, or I'm not saying that people were in ego, but we've been in an evolution. These people are coming to the table and their humanity is hand in hand. They're not caught up in themselves, but and their intel and their experience, which is their intel, is being told in a very clean way. And so I feel like that is just like this, just like this. I mean, we've known each other a long time. We've done a lot of collaborations, but this is a whole different feel. You know. Thank
This
you.
is the beginning of thank you, Todd. And wonderful work with Gareth, because I totally, everything you've just shared, I've basically seen we're in the lead up, and I was shown 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12. Actually, I can show you. Sometimes I'm guided to certain things and then something will fall out and I see it and I go, okay. And so I opened up this random thing. I don't know if you can, oh, I don't know if that's gonna, no, no. Oh, there we go.
Hang on. There you go. Yeah, back it up. Okay, so it's like oh,
So at the top it says 1212 Cosmic Rebirth. And it was a sketch
wow.
that I was downloading a couple of years ago. And it was with a lady who, I respect her work. She does a lot of SSP support groups, Misha Johnston. And it was a business card pinged in there with pictures of hybrid children. And I was like, oh, 1212 is really going to be a cosmic rebirth of integrating these cosmic or galactic versions of ourselves. And that's, I believe, is what sparks the entrance of this new reality. And I remember going through that process myself, which I touched on, I want to share a little bit more of, because now I'm like, oh, I get to play it out and everyone gets to come with me this time. And I'm sure it will unravel in different ways, but when it comes to looking at the duality, whether that's through Secret Space Program or just the archonic influence and structure, I went through this whole life review experience where it was like I was unplugged from all the distortion and all the BS in many, many different facets, and I reviewed every significant relationship. I went through such, it was literally like a life review before I tipped across. And I saw it for what it was in the reverence of how it got me to who I am today. Like as shitty as some of the things have been, I was like, I wouldn't have got here if I didn't go down into the depths and have those experiences. And it was like all the parallels of me collapsed, and then I streamlined onto one timeline and I opened up and walked into that new reality where I was literally living the life that I knew I was meant to be living, that I haven't been able to fully access and been frustrated for 20 years because I saw it coming. And I'm sure so many people can relate to that of like, we've got these insights or these intels or these dreams. But I then stepped into the reality of, oh, this is literally what I've been working towards. But it wasn't until I'd gone through that life review and reviewed all the duality of the human experience of this, and it was a life review of this lifetime and all the parallels and how it correlates with the galactic. And so there was a lot of, I have a very strong Arcturian connection. That was my part of my 10-year. They came into my room and lit shit up, and my life was never the same again. And so a lot of my being taken on ship is Arcturian, and they work with my body specifically. And I was having an experience last night, because our bodies are changing as we go through this. So yeah, so the coding that's coming through is that template that I saw, and now it's given me a name of this golden template. And I know a lot of people are starting to pick up on that frequency. It's like a gold geometric symbol, which represents the organic expression of reality, essentially. But it came to me, and it, you know how we're talking about the SSP stuff? Well, it was like this template came in and named itself as the SSC. So, and it's the sacred soul connections or counterpart, but it's the unity. It's the unity and the Trinity. And I know that you, over the many, many years, you know, this conversation about the golden child, I guess it's it's an aspect or representation of that. But as we cosmically rebirth that within, that's where we get to access that of what's coming. And it's literally the life that we've known that we haven't been able to fully, maybe we've had tastes of it over the years. You know, we hit those points and it's like, oh, we're here, and then no, we're not. You know, it's the stabilization of that where we get to, and what I was shown many years ago was, it is the new earth in some regards. I've always seen the new earth as, I see it as stages. And what I was shown is this is a shift into a noticeable new reality, and it was called the co-creational space. And it's exactly what you've described. And then from there we can transition more into what I would consider new earth, of like flying, levitating. But we go into this other space first as a primer, as a preparer, where there is no distortion, and we have the abundance. We get to do all the things that we, how to express our soul, essentially. It's a very creative space. It's very vibrant, it's very abundant. And I feel like it's a flipping, and I feel like people like yourself, Todd, like the interviews and all the people that are coming forward now that are sharing this amazing intel, that have kept quiet for all these years, it's like they're stepping up, and platforms like yourself, Todd, will become more mainstream, and the clickbaity and the news kind of doesn't really exist in that reality. It's the real soul content that is front and center, because that's what's going to, oh, I can feel it. That's the resonance that we're stepping into. And I'll leave it there.
No. I feel you. I feel you.
The last thing I'll say is that's where I get excited, because obviously you know my story from 2020, I think it was when we originally connected, and my work around the New Earth children and these hybrid children and these that want to come through in the physical. I've always been shown that they won't come through until we hit that reality. And so I've had my own experiences that I won't go into myself, but I can also see it in the collective, that there's all these children that want to land too, you know, but they won't come until we hit that new space, because they don't play in the dualistic nature of reality.
Yeah, they're not stupid like we are. No. So one of the things I got, I just remembered uh, and it was a lucid dream in the last 3 or 4 days. And I just remembered this now. So somehow it's connected. Um, and I was being shown what they call the firmament.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And and part of what I was being shown was that, well, and I didn't know this, but I went and looked it up, and I can't believe I didn't remember this, but so it's spoken of in many ancient texts, most every one of them, really. So this whole thing about anything other than that is very contemporary, like maybe less than 200 years old, right? So so that was part of it, and the other part of it was it wasn't just one firmament or one, whatever you call that, like what do you call those things, like the little Christmas things, or where you, the little balls where this, you shake them up and the snow's.
Oh, it's a snow globe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there was more than one. There was two, there was three, there was four, there was five, etc. And these were representing different layers, like you were talking about earlier, New Earth layers, right? Of of the this infrastructure in a fish bowl in the corner of the multiverse that was all by itself doing its own thing. So it wasn't just one thing, it was many things, right? So I was shown that. And then I was shown that the reason that that was done, or I'm sorry, the reason that it was stated to us in these last 6 to 12,000 years through the Bible, through different schools of thought, and so on, was because even though the distortion was put in place, that those that played those roles or had the knowing or had the control or had the esoteric knowledge that was secreted away still have to operate by the universal laws, which is to lay it out there and tell the truth. Okay. And so I saw that they were basically, even though on one hand, they're like, it's kind of propaganda related, like revelations in the Bible or whatever the case is, but that it's actually truth. And so that part of it is going away. And then if I look at this atlas, 3-eye atlas that's coming in, and the comets that are around it, or the celestial bodies that are around it, and so on, and all the hoopla and all that, you can see both. You can see the continuation of the illusion and the BS, from, I don't want to throw shade on it because I see the value of it, just like you were talking about. But on the other hand, you can see the energetics of it. Like, it's that split that I was talking about earlier. Some will choose to go this way. It's not really about going this way. There's just some souls that have come here. Every one of us, if there's 8 billion, I don't know if there is. I mean, I don't trust or mistrust anything that's in this realm. I just don't know if it's real.
I'm not sure if that's correct numbers in
Right?
my
I
opinion.
know. I don't think so either. I don't think so either. I wouldn't be surprised if there's 144,000 of us on here with 8 billion NPCs.
That would not surprise me.
But so but the thing is, you have this, and think about it. If you have something that's created, at some point it's going to replicate the original split. And I don't mean that in a bad way. When the mother said, "Hey, I want I want a counterpart," right? So there's this, in other words, for the toroidal to have a continuation, it has to surrender as it stands in its own power and faith and so on. And so you have this moment, this watershed moment, this salient point, this conception where we're
Yeah.
given a choice, which is always what it is. Because and you're not going to go wrong either way. It's just, we're going to meet back here again. We're just going to keep going up the spiral. So I kind of see it that way, and that whole narrative propaganda, whatever whatever you want to call it, may hold true for those that hold on to it, and for others, it won't. And there is no comparison. There is no right or wrong. It's not about that. This is a soul's choice. And at the basis of that soul's choice is the same thing the mother did, which was to have enough to have the innate knowing that she can't be separated from what she's dreamt and created. And that in order for it to come back together again, she had to say, I love you unconditionally. I'm not going to control you. I'm not going to, the part of this incredible, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but I had an incredible session with Morgan last night. And it was a session that we haven't reached this level of connectivity in maybe 5 years. 5 years. 5 years. You started with the 5 years of the COVID thing, right? And the the um, the magnitude of the receiving. It wasn't even receiving. It was equilibrium, because the consciousness, the aspects came in a unified way, I would say, because again, it was something that I feel that hadn't been achieved in like 5 years. I immediately, because of my experience in what you talked about at the beginning of the show, all this work we do at night and all these things that we're fighting and this and that, I said, hey man, I just want you to know, don't tell me I have to do anything. Don't tell me I need to do anything. We're the boots on the ground. We're collaborators. There's no more, it's one thing to understand the conditioning and the programming we've been through, where we've, you know, had to overcome our inferiority to those things that were threatened and put upon us in the fear-based programming, the death programming, and so on. This is part of what we've overcome. So I just wanted to let them know that we're on the same ground here, pal, and then it flowed, right? And it flowed from there. But it's another example to me of that split and the toroidal coming back together to rebirth again. And it was a very different and unique experience that spoke to me in a way that I haven't seen but a few times. A few times. Like I go back to 2011, 2012, in my personal journey, 2015, when we connected, and quite a few times after that. There's something that what I was receiving that was anchoring in that moment, and it just came at me in so many different ways. And one of those ways was that because I'm in Mexico, and I'm looking at the moon and the sky and the sun. The sun's coming up, and I'm not even tired. And I had this experience. The experience is over. I go out into the courtyard, and I've had this summer with this male cat and female cat. And I think I might have told you about this. And 1st of June, they start talking to me. I've never been an animal whisperer, and they start talking to me and giving me all this information. I realize I'm not just talking to a soul, that particularly with the female, I'm talking to the feminine consciousness, or I'm listening to the feminine consciousness. So last night after this thing happened, I went out to the courtyard, and these cats started freaking out. Like just freaking out. Like the male cat looked at me, and I could see that they could see my light, my illumination. And then the female cat just kind of like would walk over here, turn around and crouch and look at me. And I could see, like almost like I could see through her eyes what was happening. So I know that was a kind of a got off track a little bit, but my point is that one of the things that I realized last night is that the unification, the unity, the oneness certainly happens within us, and we know this, and we've had this coming in. But to do this in a physical reality, this is what we're talking about. This is what you're talking about with the hybrid children. It's not going to go like, say, it's me and her, or you and uh, it is. But from there, it doesn't just go, oh, well, let's bring another one in. Let's bring another one in. No, it's going to explode. And, and I don't see, I don't know where that leads. You've had a glimpse of the new earth. I kind of have. I kind of get it. But it's just like, it's not about like, it's on one hand, it's like that surrender and letting go. But on the other hand, it is not owning, but I guess being aware and being in reverence, being in grace and peace and love of your own field and seeing the mirrors that are before you. And even if those mirrors are that other earth, right? Are those souls that choose that path. There's no judgment here. This is an extraordinary time, and after all these years, let's say all the shows we've done for 5 years, you've done all the work you've done. It's here now, and so I look at this October, November, December not as 10, 11, 12, but as 1, 2, 3, blast off. Yeah. Because we're going into a 1 year. Uh, so yeah, and I really appreciate what you said. Not about me, but in terms of let's say the literal evolution of where we're at, and that conversations like this, and taking nothing away from, say, the work that you've done with people that were in the SSP, or other things like that. This is the real thing here. I just spent, and thank you, Gregory Jones with infusedlights.com, for just coming to the table and handing me 1,500 reels, which I can't even I'm trying to put up 20 or 30 a day. And I'm going, is this even worth it? I'm looking at how many views you're getting, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, no, my soul comes and says, no, 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 no. Just put it out, put it out,
Yeah.
put it out. Because what I'm getting, because I have to listen to each one of them, they're like a minute to 2.5 minutes, and listen to it. And so I'm doing that over and over. And what I'm getting is what you said earlier. That is mainstream. And if mainstream means that it's 20 views or 100 views per reel, but that in the energetic field, it's millions. Or if it means it's millions in the literal field, I don't know. But this is important. It's important for people to share these things. And as I was listening to all these reels, I'm realizing, wow, this is more diverse than I've ever experienced before. And the way they're delivering it, they're not full of themselves. This is a frequency. This is the truth frequency. And this is something that I think, we doubted a lot within ourselves and certainly with each other. And yeah, I just feel like that, like I said, October, November, December is 1, 2, 3, blast off.
Totally, totally. And oh my God, as you talk, I have like a zillion things run through my mind. I'm like,
Bring it
"Ooh,
out.
which,
Let's go. You got
which
plenty of
one?
time.
Which?"
Just go
All right,
ahead. Go for it.
I in that new reality experience, I know that there is this new pathway for me that I've felt calling me for quite a few years, and it's the merging of entertainment and consciousness. It's creating a new genre of music that has frequency and vibration, this truth frequency. It's in the arts, it's in all expressions of creativity, and that's what gets me excited. Now, I have markers in my reality because I have contacts with some of the most phenomenal creative people on the planet, I believe, and I think there's many more to step forward. And I think what we create through that will become the mainstream, and it will be these things that you have been having a platform to share and have people to share, but that will become the new kind of, I don't want to call it entertainment, but like the new mainstream. And it's funny because through this September passageway where I literally had to kill the death program and my body just did all some crazy things, and that's kind of repairing itself now. But another thing was like, you literally, like my higher self was like, you can't consume content anymore. Like, we'll give you specific things that you can watch and that's it. Because of the frequency of it, because I'm becoming more activated, I'm becoming more incorporated, I'm becoming more sensitive. So anything that isn't within that very specific bandwidth, I can't consume. End of story. Bye-bye Netflix, bye-bye anything of that nature. And also on YouTube, I was like, I can only consume very specific channels, and it's about sound, it's about voice, and it's about content and the frequency that comes through that. And that excites me, because when those creative people that I mentioned, and you being one of them, pop into my field, I'm like, here we go, it's go time. And I have another incredible friend who always pops up when I'm in this trajectory, and literally I get a phone call like 2 days ago inviting me for coffee and breakfast, and I was like, oh yeah, it's time. Like it's all coming together, I can see that. And it makes me so happy. But I want to give voice to like the death program and the illusion of, because I've had so many different new reality co-creational space dreams and new earth dreams for like 10 years or more. And I believe that some of them are literally me having like a snippet into the future. And some of them may not unravel exactly. I mean, we've got to be open, right? We can't be attached to it has to be this way, or, but I think it's a good kind of direction. And in some of those dreams, I've been on what would be considered mainstream radio, talking about soul work, you know, and helping artists incorporate soul into, like existing artists who are leveling up to incorporate soul into the work that they do. And I think that's the times that we're kind of moving into. And I get super passionate about this topic because I'm like, oh, it's in my bones. And what I've been shown is through my quantum merging work is that there was a timeline. Oh God, there was a timeline. Because when I was in my early 20s, no, sorry, my teenage years, if you asked me what I wanted to do for a living, I would say, I want to be a creative director. I want to work in music. I want to work in sound. I want to be a producer. I want to, you know, and I had all these incredible opportunities come through my way. And just the synchronicity off the chart of like being on a bus and running into like this, you know, quite notable person. And, you know, I won't go into the details, but like there was definitely a thing that was happening. And all of a sudden my trajectory changed and shifted. And it correlated with a number of events. One being I started developing my psychic abilities, and at 17, I started doing psychic development classes. So I started going on this more spiritual path. But on my 19th birthday, I had some family stuff. I had a significant person in my family pass away on my birthday. And I know that correlates to a 20-year SSP timeline where my consciousness was kind of focused on you know, this much bigger thing that's going on. But there has been this correlating parallel reality where I am actually, I want to share this because I think this is relevant for everyone. I have not a musical bone in my body. I've never played an instrument. I don't sing. I mean, I sing in the shower, but I have this crazy connection. But I've been shown through this quantum merging process that these parallels aren't all just SSP related. Some are, but some are like the other timeline of us that continue down that pathway. And I've been shown my life in that reality. And I have all these skills to produce music. And so as we go through the collapse and the merging and the stream of one timeline, we get all that consciousness back, but we also get the gifts and abilities. And that's when people just pop in and like all of a sudden I have this ability that I didn't have yesterday.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I started to like when you said the 20-year and back thing that happened at 19. Well, and I think I'm not the only one, I feel it's pretty obvious that everything that's been presented in this firmament, I'll just use that term. I'm not saying that I don't believe the earth is flat, round, or anything. It's it's many things.
It's
Um,
many things.
but in this last 12 or 15,000 years, they replicate the universal templates. So if you look at something in general, like one world government, oneness, right? So the story sounds universally acceptable, but it's not behind the curtain, right? So I can see where, like you said, there's the even the element of the 20 and back is basically another form of siphoning or looshing. Okay. Okay. So you're taking these alternative or truer timelines or whatever the case is, organic timeline that's not inverted or whatever, where you're flourishing in the natural nature of your soul, which is which is within you innately and at some level is looking to come out and express in this dense environment, yet it's another example of forgetfulness or memory swipe or whatever the case is. See, this is why I was saying what I said earlier. It's like, this isn't just going to go 1 + 1 = 2. It goes 1 + 1 = 3. And then it goes from that. And I think it's even beyond the 6 9, like Tesla. I think it's bigger than that. I think there's more to that. And I won't go into all that. But my point is, that's what's coming back. And I'm like you. I play the guitar. I play a little bit of harmonica. I like to write poetry. I've done a little bit of melody. I do some conscious kind of rap stuff, but there's this pull. Like it's just like, like this little bit of it. Like there's this pull that, like I can think to a dozen, 15 occasions where I've sat down with musicians and like we're just going to do something improv. And the part of me comes out, and I'm like for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I'm my soul in my body, and I don't care what anyone thinks, but oh my God, that's giving me chills. I'll watch the replays. I'm like, oh my God, that was so pure. So that's like to me, that's like New Earth. Like that's it. And so these SSP, the 20 and back, I can think of when I first woke up and I was just, I rewoke in 2011, 2012. There was a bunch of weird stuff happening. Like meeting people where I saw 5, 10, 15, 20 different life experiences that we had, parallel lives.
Yes.
And thinking within that bandwidth, let's just say there was 36, because that was true with one of them. I thought that in those 36, there was a true timeline, but there wasn't. There were like
Mm.
pockets within the pockets within the pockets. Like what we've done here is literally on the scale of everything that we've ever thought of is a reality. And we've actually brought all, we're bringing, well, we have brought all of these back to like what people talk about the original divine template, blueprint, original timeline. And so in that timeline, you are this creative force, this creative producer, right? And I'm this, and
I laugh when I hear that. But
well,
yeah.
truth,
Yeah,
but
well.
it's you, right? So imagine that, and you know what I mean. And I guess in reality, because I remember writing a piece, from the streets way back in 2012, and it was about creativity. And my soul came in, and it was like I just, one of those channels, and it was just like, creativity isn't just about art. Creativity is actually your strength, your highest power, moment by moment by moment. And so, what is creativity? Creativity is getting past the point of embarrassment, shame, blame, and the lower level things, but like embarrassment and like self consciousness, and actually being yourself. You know, and so
Bingo. It's
that's how we're.
authenticity
That's how we're.
embodied.
Yeah, that's transparent. That's how we're. That's what how we operate in those higher dimensions, and that's what we're bringing here. And at some level, through the earlier discussion, we're souls are given a choice. Do you want to go this way and get more training or more experience, which means at a human level, pain and suffering and all that stuff that so many of us are like, fuck this? Or do you want to go this way and explore what you know innately in a physical density that's organic? Because it's going to go just like a DNA strand or just like the toroidal. It's going to come back together. We're never apart. And the contrast, the polarity, which is in all dimensions, is what gives us the, the variety to paint the picture. The more we have, the more we can create. And it's like a higher truth. Today I've got 72 colors. Tomorrow we've got 144. You know what I mean? And then the next time, so the universe isn't stagnant, and we're coming to this point in a physical density where the force of nature itself, the force of creation itself, is dividing to meet again, to conceive again. We're conceiving right now. We're conceiving. That's what's happening.
That's
Thank you.
perfectly said. Thank you, Todd. And I look forward to more of your creative aspects and elements flowing.
Well, I look forward to everybody's, and I don't know about you, but this has been one hell of a. I'm so excited about this meeting every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, you know what I mean? It's speaking to what we just talked about. There's no planning. All we said was, I did that show with Jenny, and we talked about SSP and 20 and back, and then you put a comment in and said, this is where I'm at, and then we connect, and I said to you, I'm cool with these subjects, but what doesn't resonate is they don't bring the soul in. You know what I mean? The only time you hear the soul on these subjects of conspiracy or disclosure is somebody trying to control it or what they can do. And again, it's just presentation, it's just distortion, it's not something manifested, it's just the way that it's spun, right? And you're like, oh, yeah, that's me too. And I knew you'd done a lot of work with these people. So, it may seem like a small pebble thrown into a big lake with small ripples, but it's not. It's a fucking boulder, you know? And so,
I,
you
I
know,
think, oh, thank you, Todd. I think that the conversation that we had ripped off the band-aid for a lot of people, or it just put voice
mm,
for a lot of people. And I think that's indicative of people's consciousness returning and getting some sort of awareness or memory back. And if that's happening more and more, which it is, and I'm witnessing and you're seeing, That's indicative of all the other things that we've spoken about and how it all goes hand in hand. That's how
Yeah.
important it is.
I'm with you. I love you. I appreciate you. Healing, peace, love, and comfort to you and yours. You know what I mean? We're here, and we're not we're not being dragged down or burdened or handicapped by the old literal human condition. We're not to take anything away from that, but this what we're tapping into is real, and there are many, 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 many people too that are doing it. We may just be bringing voice to it in these interactions, but there's no doubt in my mind that this is the road to that kind of beehive intelligence. I know I've had dimensional encounters where the planetary consciousness, it was almost like you live your life every day, then you go to bed at night and everybody shares their information, and then the next day it's a much higher truth, it's a much higher experience. Um, we're working our way out of out of a depth we never had before. So I'm honored and privileged to spend this time with you, and I look forward to 2 weeks from now. I'm probably going to have to go lay down.
Yeah,
There's so,
it is
there's
a
so
lot.
much. It is, and it's a, yeah, it's a privilege to share the space with you because there's so much more to that. There's those that you're connected to, those that I'm connected to. This is not my voice. This is more than my voice, and you know what I'm talking about.
100%.
Yeah. So you take care. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you in
Okay.
2 weeks.
All right.
Bye, Todd.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
yeah. Thank you for joining everybody, and we're being suppressed. So if you want to share this to your page or to a group, we'd appreciate it.
Please share, everyone, because the algorithms, as they stand now, aren't supporting content like this that needs to
Yeah.
be circulated. So
Yeah.
thank you in advance for helping get this frequency out there.
Yeah. All right. Everybody, peace out.